It's a beautiful, majestic, and historic place, the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. For years now, it's been the spring meeting retreat for the Detroit Regional Chamber's annual Mackinac Policy Conference. What was discussed and even debated here last week directly affects our entire state. It's Sunday, June 10th, and this is a Spotlight on the News Mackinac Policy Conference Special. From business to politics to education, the annual Mackinac Policy Conference is a diverse blend of topics and leaders. Talk a little bit about what it is you want to do, your priorities for this system.
Sure. Well, the ultimate vision is to be the best urban school district in the country. I mean, that's what Detroit deserves. We're not going to be able to rebuild the district overnight. I mean, what I've been saying in relation to it being the NBA Finals, week, is that we're down 30 points. The coach always tells the players, you can't make that up in a minute. You got to chip away at that deficit. And our work is about chipping away at bad systems, bad processes that have been implemented under emergency manager and rebuilding the district to be the district it once was. The vision, best large urban school district in the country in the next 5 to 10 years. In the short term, it's rebuilding the district so we function at a level of normalcy. When coming in as superintendent, there was just so many systems and processes that were lacking, from paying teachers on time, recognizing that teachers haven't had a raise in years, filling teacher vacancies, curriculum that's actually aligned to the standards, training on those standards. So those are the things that we've been focused on this year and excited to move into next year to begin to implement the reform. So for example, we have music and art funded in every school next year. Okay.
Bringing arts back.
Bringing arts back, bringing athletics back from the K-8 level all the way to the high school level. Bringing back feeder patterns so that students can see an elementary or a K-8 in their neighborhood eventually moving up to a high school. Having guidance counselors at every school. Having individuals called academic interventionists to work with students that are below grade level in reading and math. So these are things that large urban school districts are already doing throughout the country, so it's bringing the reform here that should have been happening over the past decade that hasn't been happening.
I think he's doing a great job. I really admire his analytical mind as well as his value-centric approach to the work. He always keeps student first, but also is able to take in all of this different information and organize it and come to conclusions as well as thoughtful approaches to the work. So I'm really pleased with Dr. Vitti.
We're going to have about 40% of our workforce is going to retire over the next 7 to 10 years. And a lot of those workers are linemen, pipe fitters, welders, splicers, underground cable employees, and we're finding that it's hard to find those employees, and what we need to do is start building a pipeline of future employees for DT Energy. So Randolph really was, was born out of that need for us to really find. Yes.
The student body had dwindled.
Yes.
The school was not in good physical shape.
Right.
You guys went in and put roughly how much money in?
About $10 million is what we raised to really renovate that school. And I think all the things you said, that school was built for 600 students. And by the time we got there, they were down to about 150, 200 students. Well, I'm happy to say that we've got 300 daytime students back in that school today after we, rebuilt, renovated the facility. And we did that with partners. I mean, we weren't alone in all of that. We did a lot of the fundraising and put our own funds in, but we've got 300 daytime students. We're also looking to put 300 adult students through there at night so that we can train them for the jobs of the future.
They've reinvigorated the Randolph Vocational School.
Yeah, in Detroit, vocational school.
And we're involved in that program. We met with Representative from Barton Mallow today because they're doing a couple of those big projects, and we're working with them to bring Detroiters under the building trades umbrella, not just our craft, but the other crafts as well. Mm-hmm. And as Brian mentioned, we hire professionals to help us with engaging with the high schools, other avenues for us to recruit these workers in the city and throughout the whole geographical area.
Everybody's identified a worker shortage. And it's kind of hard to figure how you're going to recruit workers by cutting wages. And one other thing on prevailing wage, again, prevailing wage isn't just about workers. The original prevailing wage laws were established to protect local economies and local businesses, and that seems to have been lost in all this. So hopefully our legislature will realize the importance of the prevailing wage laws, and we can maintain that prevailing wage in Michigan. And as far as going forward, we'll keep doing what we do within the process to ensure prevailing wage is maintained and protected in the state of Michigan.
Our three universities are the only research intensive. This is the most research an institution can do in that category in the state. And when we look at most states in the nation don't even have at least three. So Michigan is really already at a competitive advantage by having three. And so what we do at the URC is really try to communicate, why does that matter? And it matters because we're making significant contributions, not only in terms of the talent that we put out, we prepare, it's also in the research and moving innovations that are in the lab out into the marketplace where they can be used. So one example from the infrastructure report that I think is really exciting is this concrete. And Jeff, I want you to talk a little more about the concrete.
So University of Michigan has figured out a way to make this super durable concrete inexpensively. And so, you pave the roads with this super durable concrete and then they don't get potholes as quickly, you don't have to replace them as long, maintenance cycle's much better, and so you can make the existing dollars that we have for infrastructure, which I think a lot of people think aren't enough, but you make those dollars go further. And so it's a real value to the state.
Coming up, the Snyders, Governor Rick and First Lady Sue. Sandy Barua told me the other day, he said, I'll be honest with you, when the governor first got elected, he was not a fan of this conference. He said, but we changed and the conference grew around him, and he said, I think it's now become a very good, popular forum. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's an accurate statement. I told Sandy, I said, there's got to be real substance, real action coming out of this conference, or why would I come? And Sandy was relatively new in the job, and he built a team, and they've stepped up. They've done a really nice job, as you've seen, Chuck, about having set pillars or goals each and every conference, and then actually doing the follow-up to see how well we've done. Things like the Gordie Howe International Bridge, some of these other topics, the talent topic.
Got launched here?
Yeah, a number of things sort of got launched and put in place, and so that's where this is a good venue to bring people together to talk about it. And we've done several announcements, even this conference, like the Sue Locks last night, the mobility challenge that we're going to be doing in the state, and this morning I'm doing one on the vocational village. These are fabulous programs.
Talk a little bit about the vocational village and how that ties into this whole other big thing that you've been trying to really push, and you're having some luck in the legislature of talent and growing talent in the state.
Yeah, talent has been my top priority because we've got a lot of great openings, but we need to help people get those skills to take those good, well-paying jobs. In the vocational village, it's equally true of people that will be coming out of our correctional institutions. Because isn't it the best answer to have them be successful? It's great for them personally, but it's great for us as society to watch them do well. And so we've got two already in place, one in Jackson, one in Ionia. We're doing one at the women's facility. And there are in 10 different fields where they can get certificates as an auto technician, as a welder. We're doing robotics now. And they are getting interviewed and hired before they come out of the institution. That's prisoner reentry at the best. These are returning citizens to our communities. Why don't we help them before we let them go?
If when your term is all done, people start writing those little things about what was this governor really known for, and they come out and say, he brought civility back to this state and back to government. How would that make you feel?
That makes me feel great because it's about people working together. I mean, I tell people we had the lost decade because we were too successful and we all figured we could sit around arguing and fighting with one another, and the world changed and we ended up at the bottom. Our comeback wasn't me. It was the fact we decided we could be a great place again by working together. Look at Detroit. I mean, look at what's going on there. I mean, I have a great relationship with the mayor and other people in the city, other levels of government. We all work together about how to help that city, but the whole state.
From day one, you said urban Michigan is a priority, and as goes Detroit and Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo, goes the rest of the state. When you look at this fight that they're having over transit, you can send them a message. What would that message be?
They can do a better job on that one, and they should. I mean, we do need a regional transit system that's more integrated, that's more effective. You've seen all the studies and the way the world's going to go. It's important we have better connectivity, and this ties into mobility. So I would just encourage all the regional leaders to figure out how to sit down and how, not to talk about the other person, but let's talk about the problem and the solution we need to put in place.
You have been absolutely passionate about this issue of sexual assault on campus. Since I talked with you last year, update us on what kind of progress you've made.
Well, we are going to be hosting our 4th annual summit for Inform, Empower, Prevent, and it's going to be held at Western Michigan University this year. And we're very excited because they have a larger venue, and we're probably going to be able to have up to 750 people, which this year will be including high school students, which that's very hard to believe, but they've got to be in the know and be informed in how to handle these things.
You've got a new 24-hour hotline.
Yes, we do. That's going to be coming out probably the end of the summer before the school year, and we'll be able to incorporate that into the orientation packets, which will be great, and we'll be announcing that probably the last week of August.
It takes a lot of money to be able to do this program and do it right. You've been working with your husband and the legislature to be able to get the appropriate amount of money. Do you have the amount that you want yet?
Well, actually, and this isn't totally approved, but we asked the legislature for $600,000 to help with our grant program for new and innovative ideas from the students on prevention and bystander training and what have you. And there's a rumor that we're going to get $1 million.
Well, good rumor?
Yes, I hope so. That's the latest that I heard. So that's really important because these kids, they're the heart and soul of this. They know what's going on in their campuses. They know what they can try and do to help prevent and help the survivors and everything. So,
when you talk with the young people on the campus, what is it that they are saying to you?
They are saying that the survivors are not being heard. And that's why last year we created a work task force that created a handbook for survivors. And it's been very beneficial. And I think the whole thing is that we need to get everybody on the same page when it goes to all these events happening. How are we helping them? Who's got the right process? Everybody seems to be following something different, and I think we all need to get on the same page.
All of this is happening in the backdrop of the Me Too movement. Your thoughts about that, and does that help your cause? And why do you think all of this is just crystallized at this point?
Well, I think for too long it's been swept under the rug. Nobody's wanted to talk about it. We found that at our very first summit. Everybody was like, you're going to talk about that? You know, but once we got everybody together in the same room, people were opening up. And I think that's what's happening with the Me Too movement. You know, well, I guess she said, you know, it happened to her, so maybe I can say it. And then people think, oh my gosh, it's happening more and more. Well, that may not be the case. It's just that people feel better about talking about it. They feel they're free to talk about it now.
Final question. The countdown clock has sort of started. You're looking forward to the next chapter in your life?
Yes, we are. I'm looking forward to some more vacation with my husband, more time, and especially with the family. But it's been a great ride. We've just had a wonderful time, and the people in the state are just fabulous people, and there's so many cool things that we learned about while we were in office.
You wouldn't trade this experience for anything else in the world?
Absolutely not.
How does Detroit Future City fit into all of this?
That's a really good question. I think, you know, our role at Detroit Future City is really to try to help Detroiters stay engaged through our publications or through some of our events, or even now through our ambassador program that helps Detroiters become much more engaged. I think that's really sort of the role that we've been playing, in addition to some of our other initiatives that are based on our strategic plan that really get more into land use and community and economic development in Detroit.
Next on Spotlight, the politicians.
Even though the president has zeroed out all the money for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, which I created in 2010, we put together a bipartisan group, pushed back, saved every penny. The administration is trying to go after it again, but instead of lowering funding, the water resources bill that just came out of committee actually increases funding over 3 years. 1 out of 5 jobs in Michigan are connected to the water. So this is our economy.
First and foremost, I think we have to stop just putting programs out there that are, and consider every program on the basis of, is this worth borrowing from our kids and grandkids? And if it's not, even if it does some good things, we have to recalculate and reduce them or eliminate them. Because every program right now, we're funding with deficits, which is having our kids and grandkids pay for them. Michigan has been losing ground in car production, not all vehicle production, but car production, dramatically. And in fact, in 1995, we had 5% of the production that China has. And today, in car production, we're about 1/8 of what China has. And most people don't realize that. But government, union, and corporations have to work together in a different fashion to bring car production back to Michigan.
Michigan deserves a leader to make sure that everyone has a fair shot. You do that by understanding economic opportunity and by understanding national security. Because if you don't do both, then our future will not be as bright as it can be.
These county leaders, I respect them, and I know that they have served in their capacity and they have a lot to offer. But by themselves, they cannot add value to our lives, but together, keeping strong to your commitment to your voters. But you cannot leave the table, and there's no glory in saying no.
Competing with a lot of other areas that want to be the center for self-driving cars and future AI applications. Right now, though, I'm working on the federal regulations and the federal rules that will allow these cars to go out on the roads. The legislation I'm working on in a bipartisan way with Senator Thune would create waivers, provided auto companies have checked off a number of safety criteria that are part of that process, including cybersecurity, and then they're allowed to get out on public highways across the country.
Michigan needs a U-turn. We need to go from a different direction, and we need to fix our education, we need to fix our infrastructure. Look what happened with Amazon. Amazon was a wake-up call.
I talk about my record. I mean, I talk about how far we've come here in our state, and then where we go from here. You know, spending all the TV ad time just poking holes at the other person, that doesn't solve any problems.
My job is to reflect back the conversations I've shared across 120 different cities with real people who are struggling because of the decisions that people here have made.
I just want to be able to share with the people of Michigan what I refer to as principled solutions. So I want to talk about solutions that actually serve their best interests, not the special interests up in Lansing and DC.
There's a big contrast between Bill Schuette and the Democrats who trying to be governor, and it's really about the Democratic plans have higher taxes, more rules, bigger government dominance, and I want lower taxes and more freedom to make sure we grow.
Listen, I don't care what Bill Schuette has to say. I am focused on fixing problems. People of this state, I've been into all 83 counties. I spend the vast majority of my time in Detroit and Southeast Michigan. They want leaders who are going to get things done. That means making sure that our kids have the schools they deserve, making sure that we're fixing those roads and cleaning up our water.
When Spotlight returns, Sandy Barua reflects back and looks ahead. The one thorny issue up here is still regional transit. Lots of different points of view, still a little bit of tug of war. Where do you see that issue going? Do you think something happened here on the island that will at least make the key players get in the room again and say, some way, somehow, we got to hammer this out?
Well, there were a lot of private meetings that took place up here, and that's one of the beauties of this conference. It's not just what happens on stage. There's a lot of private, kind of off-the-books meetings, if you will, that are taking place. A lot of those were on regional transit. So I think there's a lot of people, ourselves included, that are trying to find common ground.
Sure.
I think everyone engaged, doesn't matter where you are or who you are on this, realizes that we need to do better in regional transit. I don't think I know anyone who thinks that what we have right now is completely sufficient. So there is room to move forward together.
You have to have probably your own little wish list of somebody you would love to get at this conference that hasn't been here before. Anybody in particular that you say, boy, I don't know if we can get them, but we sure as hell would like to have them?
Well, there's actually two, and they're actually, we're not secret about this. We've been trying to get Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at this conference for the last few years. The problem is that our conference butts up against the annual G7 conference.
Oh, okay.
And for some reason, the G7
they
conference
won't change it.
Yes, they will not change their date for us. But we're still working with the Canadian government on that. They want to come. We came very close this year. And the other one was actually last year. I've been trying to get Walter Isaacson, who I know from my previous life, up to the island, but his schedule was so hard that it took us, I think, 4 years to finally get Walter up here, and we did last year.
All right, maybe Justin Trudeau is waiting for that new bridge to get in to make it a little easier, quicker to get across the border.
That's a good point.
All right, Sandy Brewer, thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
Chuck.
Always
Lovely
a pleasure.
to see you, as
Thanks for your
always.
hospitality up here as well.
Thanks for being here. You're a big part of this success.
It's our pleasure. Dan Musser, everybody always talks about what the Mackinac Conference means to Southeast Michigan and the entire state of Michigan. But what does this conference mean to the historic Grand Hotel?
Well, to the historic Grand Hotel, it means a lot. It's our single largest customer, and it forces us to do everything that we possibly can at the beginning of the season. So it gets us to 110% service-wise, everything we can do right off the bat. And so it sets the stage for the rest of the summer and the rest of our guests that will come after that. The Pure Michigan campaign, I believe, has just been one of the great ones ever, and particularly for us in the state of Michigan, and also for Northern Michigan, selfishly. And so that's one, and keep that funded, keep that going. But also workforce development. In our case, we use a lot of foreign nationals to keep that, to augment the Americans that we do hire. And we've worked with the administration on different programs to find every possible Michigander we can to come work for us, and we want to continue that.
So there you have it. Special thanks to my guests, the Detroit Regional Chamber and the Grand Hotel. From Mackinac Island, I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.